Good morning, everybody. Okay. Was that a short squeeze on Friday? No. No. There's always, question is who is buying, right? Buying to cover a buy. Was the buying just natural buyers? It's always both. When things move straight up, of course, it signals an overwhelming amount of demand versus supply. And so you see the way it just went straight up for 2 days. But in part, it was this Fed president from Atlanta, Bosk, on Wednesday, right? He said half a point, then flipped the other way, and the market took that as risk off and a more likely of we're accept a quarter of a point, and so let's buy. And so I don't know, short covering a what. So one of the things I wanted to point out was the buying that we saw on those 2 days formed two bullish wide range bars. And that's powerful. So whatever it is, I mean, historically, when you get two bullish wide range bars, it's a strong indication that prices are going to go higher. Now, it doesn't mean you're going to get a third wide range bar. However, I marked this one here. There was two wide range bars after a move down. And while it's not exactly the same, it's similar, in that, well, some difference. This was a continuation pattern because it already come off the bottom. But you got the two wide range bars, and it was followed by a go nowhere day, which today might be. Right? You got the Fed chair speaking tomorrow, so they may be. And after a big move, it would make sense that there'd be a resting day. And the next day was a gap down reversal. And the two wide range bars being a strong indication of higher prices, they were buyers on the dip when it dropped down here. And I said, this was the start of a move. So this totally made more sense. This already made the start. This could be the start of the move. And while things could stop and move down, you got the Fed guy talking, and then the big jobs report, which everybody is going to be focused on Friday. So what does Fed guy say tomorrow, possibly giving some insights into his thoughts? We don't know. So we're dealing with some uncertainty here. Mike is saying Fed members should keep their mouths shut. Well, they used to, Mike. It seems that almost on a weekly basis, there's some Fed guy talking, and it's announced in the economic reports that Fed such and such is going to be talking at this time, and this one's going to be talking at that time, and they're always talking lately. So it is what it is. Nothing we can change. And but so this suggests institutions believe prices are going to go higher. How they go higher is an unknown. Maybe Powell says something, and we get the consolidation day, it dips down, and ultimately everybody's going to be focused on the jobs report. You remember the prior one, the markets kind of ignored. The one before that, the markets followed along. So, the other one back here, the markets moved together. And as bonds went up, markets went up because interest rates went down. Over here, where interest rates started going up, the market brushed it off like, oh, it doesn't matter. And then eventually it went down. So now on Friday, right, I think the consensus was around 200,000, which is the same it was up here. And it came in at 500,000. And that started the markets going nowhere until eventually it dropped. But bonds dropped. So now we wait for Friday to see what the number's going to be. And it could be off to the races higher, or obviously back in the other direction. And so that's what this week is going to be about. Unfortunately, we got to wait until Friday, until this big number comes out. Well, it's going to be a day-to-day kind of scenario. And then even with credit spreads, as you get toward Friday, which they're going to be expiring on Friday, you got this news that's going to come out. And of course, that could play havoc, even with a zero DTE. Well, after the number's out, new opportunities, maybe be a little harder to find, but the ones during the week, obviously, I think it'll be better to be out of them before Friday because it's not going to be so predictable. But look, as we get closer to that, we see which way markets are going. So, right now you can see they're up a little bit. The SPY is right up against its 20 MA and what we call minor support, which I didn't mark it on this chart, but if we do this, duplicate it, drag this up here, right? That's your minor support point. And we can mark it like that. Put it on all of our charts. Right, Luke. So when we go to SPX, first thing we look at is the charts, right? Where's support? Where's resistance? Today isn't going to be a great day for, I don't see too much as far as no-brainers go. 4,100 might be possible. If the markets continue to move up, they're kind of pulled back here a little bit. But on SPX, the ideal scenario would be, let's move this up here, would be, well, there's juice at 4,000. Now, could it go all the way back down there? I think it's unlikely, but it certainly could. There's a void. There's nothing below. I don't know why it would go down there today after that run up, but just based on historical patterns, it's less likely that it goes down there, but it isn't that far away. It's only, from here. Well, it's going to open up here. So that'd be like 60 points. And the last several days have been like close to 50 points. And, averaging this out 50 points. So it is below the average range day to day, figuring it's going to gap here and it may go higher. We can look at the futures. So they're going to open up here and maybe they'll push a bit higher into this area up here. So 4,100, that's within striking distance as well. It's going to open here. But that's less than 50 points away to get to 4,100. So 4,000 is reasonable. Which way they go with the open, let's just go look at the futures, but those are the areas you want to be on. Ideally, you'd want to be on the other side of the whole number. So minor support, clearly it looks different because it's 24 hours. And the 4,000 on the futures doesn't line up with 4,000 on the S&P. But let me just go back to SPX and look at this here, since I didn't mark it off here. And so this area here, and it's kind of wide and sloppy. Which should be, you got some pivots up there, minor support. And, it's a good example of why minor support is subjective, because you can see the way it went up, there's nothing there. It just sliced through it. And, well, traders might be using it. You got one here, one here, one here. So that area is based on a self-fulfilling prophecy would be somewhere in here. And you see this little overlapping opens and closes. That's going to be an area of support intraday. And you see my cursor on the 5-minute chart, how it's going back and forth right there. You can see that base on the 5-minute chart right here. So that's your support point intraday on a pullback. And I guess some retracement fib level could possibly, that others might be looking at, that might be measuring that type of thing as a guide. that area. And so SPX is below there. So, that 4,000 is about the best you're going to get. And if markets start pulling back, maybe you can get a little bit underneath it, on a pullback. So that would be a consideration. But look, and kind of our just arbitrary 50% of the wide range bar kind of lines up with that, give or take. So, down below here, just based on the power of that move, it should not go down there. Now, should not doesn't mean it can't, but it should not. And it's about a probability. It should not. And it should not go all the way up here today because it's already moved, pretty good distance over the last couple of days. Right? So kind of common sense, but markets can do crazy stuff. This is a reasonable plan as to where prices shouldn't go up and down. All right. Yes. Moving on to the next. Russell was a mess, moving up here. So starting out the day with marking time, normal. And, now it's penetrated into the wide range bar. The weekly charts are a mess, overlapping bars. They came up to this resistance. Everything's going to be about what he says tomorrow, what happens on Friday. NASDAQ futures are coming up into this resistance area, these bars overlapping, this minor support area right there. I marked off, there's those pivots. And so you can get a little more exact in pulling it down toward the top of the pivots and just marking off that area somewhere in here, about half the bar. That's where buyers should want to show up. Resistance 20 MA converging 50 and 20 there. Same minor support areas you can see, give or take. It's stalled up here pre-market. This isn't far away. Now, this is the most bearish looking chart with this wide range bar breaking down. And I guess we'll see on Friday, maybe before Friday, whether they can retrace there. But it'd be interesting to see where this week ends as to whether we get some kind of continuation lower, kind of maybe old sandwich kind of thing. A lot of uncertainty going, because of the news this week. The 10-year is gapping down under this pivot. So that's violating the uptrend. It did stall at that pivot. With the 10-year moving down as much as it is, the markets aren't moving that much. So hesitancy, even where things are, moving in a direction that equities historically would go up more than what they are, but they've already run a good distance. So this is something that would obviously is helpful, that interest rates are moving down to equities, but they're not moving much today. The dollar, look for both of them. This is moving down a little bit. And so dollar and interest rates, and gold, that's up a little bit. Nothing much going on there. We talked about over the, last month or so, this Head and Shoulders top, and it looks like it's on its way to being negated. And so it's got a little bit more to do to get into that right shoulder. But if this starts pushing through here, that's got to get the inflation talk going, because this is a big measure of inflation and going into, many other things. And I saw the ag DBA, is it? That hasn't moved up, just kind of like sitting there. But I saw a couple of ag stocks, moving. I saw that moved last week. And of course, the steel stocks moved. That might be all China stuff, with their reopening. But this was one of the things as inflation was starting to believed to have been subside, right? 9% to 6%, right? Like is this 6% we're supposed to rejoice for? Ag started moving down in metals and so on. Silver I'd like to get a retest here, and I think, we take a little position on a retest and see what happens there. It is extended and onto support. Bitcoin, I think that's kind of moving on its own market kind of stuff with that stock that got decimated last week. I don't know if people's money got tied up in there, but another bad situation with Bitcoin. Certainly makes you want to think twice about putting your money into this thing. And the next thing I look at is the transports, as we always do. And they had a nice turnaround day too. So short term last week, relief rally. We'll see how far it goes. And Friday has the potential to continue that or totally negate it. So it'll all be about what that number is. Here's Dan.
Is that your clue to end? Greg, you done? Good morning, sound check. Good morning. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Okay. Yeah, Greg wasn't answering me, so maybe he has me off. So yeah, glad to be back here with my full 6 screens. I was bullish as can be. I wasn't around, unfortunately, Thursday afternoon, but that's a bullish close. I was bullish as can be Friday. We have a ton of bullish open positions, and then the advisory and weekly. And the problem is, look at this 15-minute chart. The problem is, it's just, I love nailing the turn, and I hate chasing. And I was okay Thursday and Friday piling on, but now it's a little tougher. But I still have a ton of bullish setups. So it's just a matter of doing what we do every day, timing them. What type of trade is it? Yeah, XOP. Yeah, thanks, Thomas. I'll fix that. Yeah, it should be the put spread under Friday's low, which is 135. So let's see, just $5 wide put spread is only 43 cents. So yeah, let me just fix this right now. 135, 130. Actually, let's do this same price. I do that sometimes where I know it's only going to get filled on a retracement. So here, let's just go through a bunch of watch list items. Yeah, I have IQ right here, actually. Bullish consolidation, railroad track uptrend, monthly, big old void. So yeah, I like IQ. In fact, sometimes I say, yeah, that's a core. Sometimes I say, well, I don't care what you call it. It just has a big void. So I'm going to add that to my core list anyway. And we still need to go through this big list of mine. Laser here was similar on this move. I've been watching this for an entry. And the entry really was Friday's gap up. But look at, it's definitely not a core, but that's a monthly bottoming pattern. Azul in the airline sector. I actually looked at this the other day and I was shocked the amount of relative weakness this had to the jets. But that's a very, very bullish 20% gap up almost there. Rosa's asking about AMD long. Yeah. I mean, I prefer a bigger void here to the left, but it's a no-brainer put spread. We did get, see how ADI I like better, because you have a gap reversal, you got a little 1, 2, 3, and you got a price void. So they're similar, but the optometrist test, I like ADI much better for a direction. I had SMH as a put spread, another gap. Now see, this one doesn't have as big a price void as ADI, but it's still fine. There's patterns galore that have these breakdown failures, bullish Friday and a closing breakout. Somebody asked me, do I still like Microsoft put spread? Of course I do. I mean, of course I do. I don't understand the question. Does it mean you're questioning our open trade? Or you're questioning, can you get in now at a cheaper price? Say there's a very big difference. I would not get in now because we've already closed half at 50% in a couple hours on Friday. So we're in the back half and it looks fantastic. Meta, Thomas, you got to ask me what your question is. You know, I had it as a put spread in the weekly options, but it's gapping up over $2. So you need to watch it on a pullback. You know, Airbnb is in the news, little baby dying from, you know, sniffing drugs in a unit. And this is an end of day base. The news was out Friday. I think, maybe Saturday, I forget, but end of day base, and it's gapping up in a bullish turn on minor support. So do you think at least that news item doesn't appear that it's certain Airbnb? I mean, that was a monster gap up, and there's our pullback and turn. So that's on my long list. XM has a big void. I'm adding that to my long-term list. Now it's gapping up to 1768. That could be a 30-minute high trade. I'm going to add this on one of my thumbnails. NXT, I just saw this going by the ticker, recent IPO, closing breakout Friday. Big, look at that range. That is the biggest range of the stock's history. So let's see if it can slop around for a couple days and give us an entry. I don't even know what they do. Kala here, little biotech. Look at that amazing entry on Friday morning. Look at that 1, 2, 3 at around 11 o'clock or so. Wow. But that, you know, has the potential to blast, but it's just too extended on the weekly. SLV. Yeah, set an alarm. Yeah, set an alarm here at about 50-40. I'll do it myself. Or 50-30. I mean, sometimes we're having a hard time coming up with good ideas, and I say, hey, let's have a contest. You all give me your best trading idea. And now I'm just overwhelmed with bullish setups. Rio here, bearish gap down, a 30-minute low, possible call spread. AI, this had earnings Friday. Look at this monthly. That's a no-brainer core. I got us into a naked put on Friday with the intent to take assignment. But if I can get a 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll go ahead and buy the stock. UNG, a couple of people in the green room nailed this turn, had a beautiful run last week. Now it's gapping down. So that's going to be an ugly breakout failure. Apple got an upgrade by Goldman. No pattern. Insight is gapping down. Nah, see, now it's gapping down too big, so never mind. NSC. Yeah, I remember you had a good trade there. This, this is the railroad that is having those big problems with its derailment. They just had another derailment, so the lawsuits are just going to be flying. Here's a couple of earnings trades. Sienna, big old gap breakout, but no pattern. Seco, it's one of those, I think, Chinese education companies, but wow, what a nice entry down here. For a bottoming pattern right there in July. Still looks higher, but I don't know. You can watch it pull back. QSI, no pattern, but beautiful 2-day run. Pan W, I just saw gapping down. That could be 30-minute low on call spread, relative weakness. Mindy, we're already in a put spread, but I like it as a call spread also. All right, I have a ton of alarms going off as expected. And this one, Greg mentioned Friday, possible catch-up trade. Nice end of day base. So you can keep an eye on that. 15, 30-minute high sort of thing. This LNG, which is our only problem child. We were long this. And so we just got to go with our 30-minute rule. Let it simmer down. IRTC. Man, my alarm is going everywhere. 30-minute high, IRTC, not rushing into it. General Electric, up alarm, we're already in that. Let me set a new alarm. I told you my rule on Mondays is while IWM selling off, I personally wait like 10 minutes instead of 5, just because there's more shake and bake. More shake and bake on Mondays. All right, I'll be going through all these alerts. All right, so General GE. We have a put spread and a directional. We have a bull call debit spread. $82.89. Wow, the spreads on General Motors, these 82s are $1 wide. That is crazy. All right, you just gotta let him settle down, but GE looks great. Yeah, I just gotta go through these alerts one by one. Nothing else I can do. Milken. Milken, I said buy on a pullback, so my alarm went off. So this pullback took 24.85. Look at that. All right, so Milken.
Sorry to interrupt. Let's keep an eye on Tiva today. That's coming out of a little intraday base, and it's been hanging here for a long time. Maybe it's going to get going.
Yeah. And it's
Vicor could be good as a short.
oh,
It's triggered. Vicor, VICR, triggered last Friday, and it's the big gap down, but it's created that pivot. So it looks like it can go lower. It starts cracking here. Wait for some kind of retracement, but or a big stop.
Microsoft up alarm. I tightened the stop already though. Let's see this 15-minute pivot. 253.24.